we're back again, our Jammie Dodger cookies. These are really, really easy. There's a few stages to them, but each one is super simple. It just takes a little bit of time, but once you've done it once, you'll be making these all the time. They're really yummy, and you can mix them up with loads of different flavors. But I'm just going to show you a basic vanilla, buttercream, vanilla cookie, and a plum jam Jammie sandwich. So let's do it. So these cookies use an icing sugar. It just makes them a lot more delicate. They're a little bit crunchier. They are a lot softer when you're making the mixture. That's why we're going to chill them in the freezer each stage so that they stay nice and firm and much easier to handle. So flour, icing sugar, butter into the mixer. We're going to switch that on. My mixer makes a load of mess. So I usually have to front the cover like that. We're going to keep mixing until we've got like a really fine breadcrumb consistency. It's going to look quite dry, but we're going to add our egg in and that'll give us our sugar dough. So we've now got a really nice breadcrumb. We're going to add our egg yolk. We only need the egg yolk here into this and we'll have our perfect cookie dough. So pop it back in the mixer and then we're going to add our egg yolk. So just tip that in. It's a really classic cookie recipe. Let that mix. The one thing to beware of is that you don't want to over-mix your cookie dough. If you mix it too much, it gets a little bit tough. So you'll want to stop mixing it just as it's getting to the stage where it's starting to stick together. Can you see it? It sort of balls up really easily. That's perfect. We're going to want to roll this out, put it in the freezer and let it chill for about 15 minutes. That way it'll be nice and firm when we come to cut out our cookie discs. Every time I come to record one of these videos, I never have any baking parchment. It's one of the essentials. I usually have it in my drawers all the time, but yet again, I don't have any baking parchment. So what I'm going to tell you to do is to get a sheet of baking parchment. You can use cling film, baking paper, don't use foil, that tends to get a little bit messy. Put your dough in between the two pieces of baking parchment, cling film, whatever. Roll it out so it's probably about 1 centimetre thick and then sling it in the freezer for about 15 minutes, or if you haven't got a freezer, pop it in the fridge for about 30 minutes. Whilst our dough's chilling in the freezer, we can make our buttercream that's going to act as our little jam barrier inside our Jammie Dodger biscuits. So for that, we've got 50 grams of butter and we've got 160 grams of icing sugar. I'm not going to add anything else to this, but if you wanted to, you could add in some vanilla essence, some lemon flavouring, literally any flavouring that you like. You could make it chocolatey by adding a little bit of cocoa powder. You can do what you want with these biscuits. You can change them up super easily. You can change the fillings, you can change the buttercreams. If you wanted to make the biscuits more chocolatey, you could take out a little bit of the flour, add in some cocoa. They're really, really easy. As long as you don't mess around with your egg and your butter elements very much, then they come together super well and they taste really good. So anyway, back to our buttercream. 160 grams of sugar, icing sugar in this case, and 50 grams of butter. And we'll just mix that up until we've got a nice, smooth buttercream consistency. So after a couple of minutes of mixing, you've got your really smooth buttercream. What you can do is take one of the piping bags that we've put in your kit and fill it with the buttercream. Fill the other one with the jam, and then you're ready to go as soon as we are ready to assemble later on. The jam might need microwaving for sort of 10 seconds just to make it a little bit easier to handle. But if not, just pop it straight in the piping bag and we're ready to go later. The dough's had about 15 minutes in the freezer, and now we're just going to roll it out slightly thinner, probably about 1/2 centimetre, I'd say. I tend to roll it whilst it's still between the sheet of baking parchment, or in this case foil. It just makes life a lot easier. You don't have to be faffing around with flouring it. So once we've done that, we're going to cut out our cookies. Each cookie's going to have a top and a bottom. So cut out as many as you can from the dough as it is, and then we'll re-roll it and cut out some more. So we've cut out our first set of cookies. We can then take the scraps, smush them all together, roll them out again, and make some more. Once you've cut out all of your circles, making sure you've got an even number, we're going to put them back into the fridge for about 15 minutes just to firm up again, so that when we cut out our decorations, they're much easier to handle. So I'll see you in 15 minutes. So now our cookies are nice and cool and really easy to handle, we're going to cut out our patterns. Inside the kit, I've given you a template. You can cut these out and then use a sharp knife to cut around the shapes, or you can just let your creativity flow and do it freehand. I'm going to do a bit of that, so I'm going to cut out a star first. The dough is really nice and chilled, so that's quite easy to do. If it was soft, this would be a real mess. So the whole way through this, we're going to want to keep everything really chilled. When it goes into the oven, you want the cookies to be nice and chilled as well. We're going to chill them again after we've done this, because that way they don't rise too much. The other way of cutting these out is to use a cocktail stick. So you can use a really nice sharp cocktail stick to make some holes, make some little eyes perhaps, cut a little mouth. Cut all of those out. If you've got any cookie cutters at home, you can use those as well. So we've used those templates to cut out our cookies. I've done some little faces, little winky face, a star one, and some ones with little words. You can fit about 3 to 4 letter words on a squeeze. I'm going to put these back in the fridge now for about 10 minutes, and then they're going to go into the oven at 170 for about 7 to 9 minutes. They're going to cook until they're golden. If they're starting to brown, they need to whip straight out. They cook really quickly. So we've got our cookies ready to go in the oven. They're nice and chilled now. I've managed to make 12 cookies in total, so that's 2 cookies per biscuit. I'm going to put them in the oven at 170 and cook them for between sort of 7 to 9 minutes, just as they're starting to go golden. And then we'll leave them to cool and fill them. Well, we've got our cookies out of the oven. They've cooled, and now we're ready to fill them. So I'm going to take the buttercream, just cut the end off the piping bag, and pipe a circle around the edge of your cookie. This will act as our dam to stop the jam from running out. Nice buttercream circle. Then you take your jam and give a good squirt of that in the middle. You can then add your face. Ta-da! And just repeat. Buttercream dam, jam in the center, and there you have it. Enjoy. So that's us all done. I hope you've enjoyed making them. As I say, try them out in different flavour combinations. You could add different flavoured jams. You could add cocoa to your buttercream to make them more chocolatey. You could put Nutella in the middle. You could make the dough chocolatey by taking out maybe 30 grams of flour and adding 30 grams of cocoa powder instead. The world's your oyster. Give them a try. They're super easy.